at what could be done at home to help some of this, other than getting your book, because they need to get the book. Moms and dads need to get the book to recognize the signs, because I don't think this is talked about in, especially the African American community, for sure. I was diagnosed with an auditory processing disorder at 28.
Wow.
At 28, so I knew it was something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I could hear you go into the store and I'm hearing something else, right? You going to get the what? You know, something that rhyme with store. And I'm going to get my ears checked. They're like, your ears are fine. It was like, you got auditory processing disorder. You know, and now that I knew what it was, I use it to my advantage sometime at home. I'm like, I can't hear, I can't, you know. But having the tools to help young adults and young kids, that's where it is. So after getting the book, what some of the things they can do at home to start that journey of getting their child or young adult on the right track?
So first of all, getting their hearing checked. Getting their hearing checked. Some kids, I once had a client on the first day that I met him and his mom. His mom was a nurse, so I was in shock. And she said, I'll just call his name. Let's say his name was James. I won't use his real name. James, he was standing up in one of my chairs in the reception area. James didn't turn. He didn't respond. And she said, you constantly not listening. You're not listening to me. And she took him and put him down on the floor. He was standing up in my chair. And I thought to myself, I said to her, have you ever had his hearing checked? She said, no, there's nothing wrong with his hearing. He's just hard-headed. He's just bad. Turns out, I said, you know what? Just so we rule everything out, we already knew that dyslexia ran in the family. I said, let's just make sure we rule out hearing, because if the kid is struggling with hearing, it's going to negatively impact his ability to learn to read. So this was sort of the December of kindergarten. She took him to the doctor. He had to have surgery because he did have a hearing problem. They had to put tubes in his ears. Now, this is a nurse who didn't recognize that her child, she just assumed he was bad. And he wasn't a bad boy. He couldn't hear. So I would say the first thing is, make sure you check your child's hearing as a child, as an infant, as a toddler. Check their hearing. If things are not coming out, if language is not coming out clearly by age 4, your child needs a speech and language evaluation. I would say by 3, get them early intervention. If you don't know how to help, there's some special intervention, special ed teacher that comes to children's homes from birth to age, I believe, 3, before they start pre-K. So you can get an early intervention educator to help you with speech and language, to develop the speech and language, because you have to be developed in speech and language to become a reader.
Yes, you do.
So
yes,
I would say those 2 things are really important. Just pay attention to your children. Put your phone down and pay attention. Pay attention to your child, because children are telling us what they need. But if we're not paying attention, I knew from first meeting that boy James that he didn't turn around when mom called his name. I didn't perceive it as bad. He wanted to see one of the things I had on the wall. So to get a better view, he stood up in the chair. It made sense. But he didn't turn around until she sort of grabbed him. And then I said, did you ever get his hearing checked? Because I'm always looking to rule out. Then you want to get their vision checked. There are many kids in school who need glasses. They're squinting. They're squinting. And they're telling us, hey, I can't see the words, but, you know, we don't get their vision checked. Yeah. You know, it's basic thing. You can catch things early if you're paying attention to their vision, their speech and language, and their vision, their speech and language, and their hearing. Those are the first 3 things to look out for. And then build the habit of reading to your children every single day, as if their life depended on it, because it does. The more words you know, the more empowered you are. So how do kids learn vocabulary? By being read to. And then at some point, like I did with Nia, buy the little CVC books. CVC stands for consonant, vowel, consonant. These are these 3-letter words, and they come in these little books. You want your kid reading to you. Dan ran fast, or whatever it is. Like, kids need to be reading these small little CVC books to you. And you need to be nurturing that, with nurturing children and helping them understand it's not about the Jordans and the cell phone. It's about becoming powerfully literate. That's what it's about.
I think you hit the nail on the head. First, you got to put the phone down.
You got to put the phone down so you can pay attention to your child.
And I think going back to what you said earlier, moms working 2 jobs immediately, it was one of the things. I was in church and they said the biggest daycare babysitter is an iPad now, right? So they start crying. They want the phone. Give me the phone. As soon as I get the phone, they watch the movies and they're disconnected, right? Mm-hmm. So we've lost that, and we're going to continue to lose that in younger generations. And how do we recover that? Maybe we'll talk about that on the next podcast. But sure. I think some of this is society issues, and if we don't fix that very, very soon, we're constantly losing generations. I employ young adults, and I asked one young adult to make a phone call to a place, and they jump right in. Hey, I need this. I said, well, hey, you calling from a company. Can you introduce yourself? Can you do this? Can you tell them what you're calling for? And the whole thing, they just went in, do you have this? And they were like, wait a minute, right? You could tell the shock and awe from the other side of the call. So we're missing some stuff. And I think after we put the phone down, then we'll have time to have more conversations with the kid, and even relationships and marriage and friendships.